Everyone, and welcome to the last chapter in the Excel course for beginners. And we'll be ending on a chapter which you'll be very much doing as a last port of call when you're finished with your Excel workbook, and that is getting it ready for printing and printing off your finalized Excel workbook. Now, let's jump right into it. So, there's a few nuances in understanding how to set up your page correctly, because a lot of people, they finish with the Excel file, they're like, okay, I'm ready to print, they press file print, and it comes out completely wrong. They might have printed 100 pages accidentally, they might have a spreadsheet which is across 3 different pages. It might look completely different what they were expecting, because this isn't Microsoft Word, it's not a word processor, it was never intended to be a word processor, so things can look a little bit funny when you do print it. So it is important to understand the skills to be able to print it uh, so that the work you did actually ends up looking like you want it to. So the first stage is to go to the print screen, right? Because you want to have a print preview to see what it's going to look like before it actually prints out. And the way that you get to that page is you're going to press Control P as your keyboard shortcut. Okay, that's the quick way. The other way you can do it, which is the slow way, is you can go File and Print. Alright, we're going to end up in the same screen anyway. So on this section of the page over here is your print preview. This is exactly what's going to come out when you press print on your piece of paper. Now, for a lot of the time, people might get very shocked because, as I said before, it doesn't look anything like what they were expecting on the page. And the reason is they were probably operating not in print preview, and they haven't set margins and page breaks and things like that. Fortunately, this one looks okay, so I'm just going to run through some of the options and then we'll get into some of the more tricky stuff. So let's start from the bottom. So the first thing is custom scaling. So if we just click on here, okay, so there's a few different options in here. The first option, if your Excel document is looking a little bit funny, is to fit all columns on the page. Because if your document has just gone over the end of the next page, if you choose this option, basically it'll squish everything on to the same page and make it look a little bit better. So otherwise, we can go no scaling as it is currently. In this case, either have worked out pretty well. So the next one we can use is normal margins. So I often just choose this one down the bottom, narrow margins, because you can see over here there's a bit of a gap on the side of the work paper. And I like to maximize the space that I'm going to take up on the page. Now you'll notice that it's now shifted over to the left hand side, but it's not using this space. That's okay. We're going to get back out of this and we're going to fix that in a moment when we go to page break view. So some of the other things that we might change is the type of paper. So if you're in an office and you have a sophisticated printer, it should be able to print on A4, A3, A5 and so forth. I generally only print on A4. Occasionally if I have a very large Excel file, I'll print on A3 as well. But often when I'm printing on A3, I'm going to put it in landscape mode. So just keep that in mind. So let's have a quick look and see what it'll look like in A3. Okay, so it's a big piece of paper. So yeah, it's a little bit more room for those larger documents. Alternatively, we could change our orientation, which is the next option above, and that might make it a little bit better. So let's change that to landscape. We can probably fit a little bit more on the page, so it's a little bit more legible now. So why don't we try this, fit all columns on the page. Yep. Cool. Alright, now the other options, just make sure that you're aware of whether the document's printing one-sided or not, or if it's printing on both sides. Just keep that in mind. And the other thing is, which tabs are you going to print? Are you going to print only the active sheets? See how the bottom it's only printing one tab, because I'm currently only in one tab. But if I were to go print the entire workbook, look at the workbook I'm in now, it's got thousands of tabs right now. So if I wanted to print the whole workbook, I would need to change this one, but it's probably going to slow down my computer and crash it. You can also select certain tabs to print. So you could choose tab 2 to tab 10 if you are choosing the entire workbook. So you don't have to print the whole thing, but you can just print a range within that. and you can choose your printer up here and number of copies as well. And once you're finally happy with it, press print. But I recommend just changing these settings just so you know this is what you're going to be working with. I'm going to change this back to A4. And then once you're happy with that, then go back into Excel before you print and then adjust the margins and the page break. This is my recommendation. Okay, so we're back in our Excel document. So the first step is to go to View and then Page Break View. So when you first open up a file, you're going to be in normal view. So you don't actually know when the page ends. I want to go to Page Break View. So these blue lines, that's basically the edge of the page. And every time you make a change, for example, we chose the paper structure of A4. This is going to update based on that. So this is an A4 page right now. So now I've just switched across to a longer tab. So as you can see, this isn't going to fit on a page because it's very long. Now what you can see here is in this page break view, we've actually got this dotted line over here. And basically what that means is that's the absolute limit of that one page. And basically what it's saying is we need to add a page break in here. If not, it automatically applies one over there. Now the interesting thing is we can actually move this column over here as well, so how wide it is, and it's actually going to influence how far down the page this page break is going to be. So if we move this over here, for example, look where the page break is now. So we can fit the entire thing on one page. But if we go to File, Print, let's have a look at what this actually looks like on a page. It's going to be very squished. Okay. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to show you is if I only want to print a certain section of my Excel page. For example, I may only want to print example 2 from this tab. So what I can actually do is set the print area. So I'm going to select the area that I want to print, and I'm going to go print area, set print area. Okay, so now you notice in the page break view that the only printable area is this little box and everything else is in gray. Of course, you wouldn't notice this if you're just in the normal view. You're not going to see any of this, but in page break view, you can. So let's have a look what that looks like when we go to the print mode. Okay, so as you can see, we can only see example 2. If we want to reset our print area and go back to where we were, we can either undo, press Ctrl Z, or we can actually clear the print area and go to page layout, print area, and then clear print area. And now this print area has been removed. Alternatively to setting a print area, we can also just select a range in the Excel workbook, for example, this top area here, and just go File, Print. Now, within this option, instead of Print Active Sheets, what we want to do is we want to go Print Selection. And now, this is only going to show up what we've selected with our mouse. Now, the other alternative to printing multiple tabs, aside from going to print and selecting individual tabs within a range, is we can also just select certain tabs that we want to print. So let's say we only want to print these 5 tabs here. Again, we just have to go back to the file print. This time I'm going to press Ctrl P, and now when this loads up, we are going to choose the active sheets. So now, as you can see down the bottom, there are 7 sheets ready to be printed. Okay? If you're still having any difficulty fitting a certain page being chopped off, just go to Page Break View and just explore changing around these page breaks. If you can do that, then you've got a higher chance of fitting those on the final printed version. I hope this has been helpful, and I hope that you've enjoyed our class Excel course for beginners. Again, these are very basic concepts that we've been going through, but it's very important that you get the foundations strong before you move on to more advanced things, so you don't miss any certain areas. And then as you build on those foundations, you'll get better and better and better, and you won't have any gaps in that skill set. So thank you for being patient and going through the basics, and hopefully we can do some more intermediate and advanced learnings in the next courses. Thank you for attending.